I've already talked about how the timing of Jane's sister's death was the absolute worst. So, something like, I don't know, a month after? No, that's not correct. The decisions had already come out because Jane's sister passed away like with a week left to go in our freshman year. So what I'm getting at is that Jane's younger sister, because there are three sisters, she already knew that she wasn't going to be coming to join us at UCLA, which ended up being a blessing in disguise. But at the time, it was like when it rains, it pours, because I don't have to explain to you, especially given that her sister had just passed away, it would have meant a lot for her to be able to come to the college that her two older sisters attended. I'm not going to give the youngest sister a pseudonym, at least not at this point. So, the beginning of sophomore year was such that Jane was already planning on rushing the sororities for what would now be a third time. That part is uncommon, maybe, like trying 3 different times, but rushing as a sophomore, not so uncommon. Because even transfer students, right? People who transfer in their third year, quite a few of them rushed the fraternities and sororities as well. Anyway, already planning on doing this. Kind of the idea behind the timing of the boob job as well, because again, you get your nails done, you glam up before you go through this process. And again, so when she was invited personally by the older sisters sorority, which I'm not going to say who they are, it only seemed like a good, positive sign, right? So mind you, at this point, I'm Jane's roommate. So I'm like back at home waiting for her when she gets back from her 5 to 9 hours of rush. And at the beginning, which lasts about a week, which lasts 4 to 5 days, right? And it's always like your literal first week, right? First week, dead week. Anyway, it's right when you get to campus is what I'm getting at. And at first, things were really going great, right? The first couple of days, all they gave her were older girls to talk to, which, if you know anything about the process, that's a good sign, right? That means that they want you. And I'm speaking specifically about the older sisters sorority, not any of the other ones. But the way it works is you show up that day and you get a printout with which ones call you back. So it's like, again, elimination. And then at the end of the day, you're left with, right? You get what you're left with, which is why they call it mutual, right? So only good signs, only positive signs. Jane is really thinking that third time might be the charm. This might end, again, with all of the advantages that came with being in a white booster society, and most importantly, her parents could more than afford it. They had the money for this, right? I was rooting for her, right? I was cheering for her, especially because it also meant something more given that her older sister was in a house, and so she wanted, right? Like, come on. I could see that very clearly, which is, anyway, why this is, it just makes me so upset even thinking about where this story goes, where this part goes. So, second to last day, Jane comes back in tears. And apparently what had happened that day was that when she showed up at the house, they gave her older sister's little to talk to. And that, as I'm sure I don't have to explain, was kind of traumatic and was kind of heartbreaking for her. So just for those who don't know, when you're in a white booster society, When you join, you get a big, right? And then one day you'll take on a little, and then there's grandkids, and they have these pinnings when there's a Greek a fraternity and a sorority get together, a couple, they call that a pinning. So much, it's so high school, right? Except and it wasn't, and if it wasn't for the fact that like these are literally the most powerful people on campus who literally run the school, also having the best time, also stay the best, like, you know what I'm saying, have everything at their disposal. If it wasn't for all of that, it would literally be laughable, because matching t-shirts, you know, like matching outfits, like it's so fucking high school, right? Anyway. So I'll never forget that when it's the last day of Rush, I was pretty sure that it was going to be down to the older sister's sorority and another one. That's what I thought. I'm not the one that has the most, that as the most familiar with this process. So it was down to 4. The day that she comes back, heartbroken from talking to her sister's little, and then the last day, I swear to God, about 10 minutes before she showed up, I thought to myself, because again, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be down to one of those two, and then it's like, okay, it'll be a decent choice either way. And then I thought, oh shit, wait a minute, what if it's not those two? What if it's the other two? And can all read between the lines. I'm not going to say anything. And then again, she showed up 10 minutes in tears, and I realized that what I had realized 10 minutes before she showed up is what in fact had actually happened. So again, I was there to console her. I was there with her. Being told by an entire house of people, especially after they strung you along this long, like I can only imagine, I can only hope you can understand like how devastating and how that must make you feel. Especially when you have to like go to school with these people and maintain somewhat of a professional atmosphere and somewhat of a professional, right, posture. You have to carry yourself with somewhat of a professional way, even though these people acted so trashily, childish, and just honestly just disgusting. And one of my first thoughts, of which I had many, I even wrote an angry email to the head organization. I was so pissed off by this, because my thought was like, if you didn't want her, why didn't you just get rid of her first or second day? Like, why string her along? And for fuck's sake, the girl's sister died. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? But most of all, where are the adults? That was my question. I remember like secondhand, right, observing all of this. I'm like, where the fuck are the adults? Like, this entire process is run by a bunch of catty, like, I'm sorry, but by a bunch of bitches who stay up until 3 or 4 a.m. doing coke, you know, pulling up Facebook profiles and ripping each other to shreds. So if anybody out of a white booster society, you know, wants to call themselves a feminist, like, again, I was taught to laugh at jokes. And that's a really, really funny one, okay? We kind of got our revenge, not really, but that was the beginning, introduction to our sophomore year of college. And the reason why I do say ours is because Jane and I were like this. At this point in the story, we have not officially started dating, right? We just had our little run-in back at her parents', but in the next video, I'm going to talk about how we kind of sort of got our revenge, but not really, but it's still a really cool story. And that concerns Brew and Bash round 2. Talk about that in the next video.